As presidential election approaches in the Gambia, one of its biggest political party, UDP, says collating with other political party is of negotiation. The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention has been reminiscing on its successes as it marks 4 years since its formation in 2017. The South African Special Investigations Unit, set up to look into the public spending of the coronavirus-related program, has revealed overwhelming malpractices. These and more coming on The World Today. Hello and good evening. You're watching The World Today News Bulletin with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. As the Gambia will head to the polls in December 2021 for its presidential elections, political parties are warming up ahead through congresses amid the global pandemic. In an interview with our reporter Ndai Cisse, one of the Gambia's biggest political party spokesperson, Almame Fandental, says it would be a little premature for UDP to collate with any other political party. Here is more of that in this report.
This will mark the first presidential elections in the West African country since after the historic 2016 election that eventually ended 22 years of dictatorial rule under the former President Yahya Jammeh. The United Democratic Party was among the leading political parties that spearheaded in forming the coalition 2016 that succeeded in ousting the exiled former president.
We are as prepared as you can be, considering the experience we have had in doing elections for the last 25 years. We just came out of Congress in December. We have renewed the mandate of the party's leadership. We have, for the first time, elected a woman national president for the UDP, and the second vice president of UDP is also a woman, Her Worship, the Mayor of Banjul. We are in the process of unveiling our manifesto for 2021, where we have thoroughly examined the situation in the Gambia.
In a recent conducted National Congress, the UDP party re-elected Ousseynou Dabo as the party's flag bearer for the 2021 presidential election, thus showing their intentions to contest election without any coalition. The Yellow Party spokesperson Almame Fandental reiterates the party's stance, saying that it will be premature to talk about collating with another party and it's up for negotiation.
UDP at this moment is an open secret that we have an open door policy to everybody, as long as you understand that the values and the principles of UDP are very clear. I think it's a little premature to talk about coalition with anybody, but certainly we have fellow travelers that we have been having very cordial relations with, as far as combining efforts and trying to do things together. But for the avoidance of doubt, Ousseynou Dabo is my candidate and UDP's candidate. And for that, I don't think we are even interested in negotiating about that. That is not up for negotiation.
Despite the political differences and rift among parties, Mr. Tal uphails President Barrow's infrastructural development and recommends that he deviate his attention on citizens' basic necessities.
To be honest with you, there has been some infrastructural development. Even some of them have been inherited. For example, the Yili Tenda, Bamba Tenda Bridge. There are some road constructions going up country, the Babasah Bridge, and there have been several foundation laying of stone. I think infrastructure is very necessary for our development to happen, but we should also try to live within our means. Meaning, before you put up a fancy road, ensure that Mariama and Almami can have their lunch and breakfast, their kids can go to school, they have a good hospital.
Members of the United Democratic Party for the past 2 decades have suffered of human rights violations under the leadership of the former dictator Yahya Jammeh, which led to the death of some of its prominent figures. However, despite the unwavering challenges, the UDP party seems even more stronger than ever before. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
The UDP spokesperson said his party, coaliting with another political party ahead of the 2021 election, is not negotiable. Now, the National Assembly Public Enterprise Committee continues to review annual reports and financial statements of public enterprises and agencies. National Agency for Legal Aid, NALA, appeared on Wednesday before PEC with no activity report and financial statements for the year 2019. More of that in this report by Ndai Sise again.
The Public Enterprise Committee is to report to Parliament on accounts examined, budgets and estimates, financial procedures, management of corporations and other government business undertakings. The committee has, however, received no activity report and financial statements from National Agency for Legal Aid since 2017 for consideration. The representative of NALA explained why reports were not submitted to the National Assembly Committee.
We are pleased to say that we believe that the 2017 and 18 are ready and submitted already, but the financial statements for 19 are outstanding. So if we can be guided as to whether we can proceed with the other ones.
Representatives from NALA said they have already submitted their activity report and financial statement for 2019 to the National Audit Office and therefore urged the committee to give them some time for consultation. The Public Enterprise Committee's chairman, Honorable Halifa Saleh, said the committee will wait for the consultations to finish before NALA reappears.
We now stand adjourned until the consultation exercise is complete to reschedule the submission date by NALA of the activity report and financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2019.
The National Agency for Legal Aid was established in 2010 by the government to provide legal aid to indigents through legal representation and advice. Its aim is regarded as central in providing access to justice by ensuring equality before the law, the right to counsel, and the right to a fair trial. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Moving on from that report by Ndai Sise, in Nigeria, authorities are initiating new measures to deal with the growing pressure in the oil sector as the West African state witnessed its lowest rates in oil exports in 3 years. The demand for oil from Nigeria has significantly dropped, especially from big countries, forcing operators to shut down facilities at terminal centers for repair. Despite the growing concerns of the economic downfall due to COVID-19, they hope the situation could improve in this year.
Key to the drop in Nigeria's oil export is disruptions to major oil export terminals, which forced operators to declare force majeures and shut down the facilities for repairs. Experts say in addition to that is the OPEC Plus output cuts, which pegs Nigeria's production at 1.5 million barrels per day, as against its capacity of 2.3 million barrels per day.
It has affected us very seriously. One, that there was COVID. Two, demand had gone down even before COVID. Demand for oil, especially from China, that is the highest importer of crude oil in the world. Initially, we were exporting up to about sometimes 2 million, sometimes 2 million plus, but now they are not getting up to about 1.5.
With some of the export terminals now coming on stream, Nigerian crude production is forecast to grow to over 1.7 million barrels per day in April and hit around 1.9 million barrels per day in the second half of the year. But with the OPEC Plus cuts in place and demand for oil still depressed, it's unlikely the country will reap much from the hike in production. The government is now looking at cutting the cost of production, which is among the highest in the world, targeting a maximum cost of $10 per barrel.
As we all know what's happening around energy transitions and the things that happen globally, the choices that our consumers have, the choices that investors have across the world, there is nowhere in the world where a less cost-efficient operator can survive. So it's not possible anymore. So you cannot produce $50 oil and survive today.
The average total cost per barrel is now below $30 for the joint venture agreement and below $20 per barrel for the production sharing contracts. We need to do some heavy liftings, not only to get to the optimal band of unit operating costs, but to also sustain it as part of our way of doing business.
Nigeria's economy is taking a serious beating as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and a significant drop in government earnings from oil. While crude prices are now going up, the OPEC Plus cuts in place means the country may still not reap much benefits from the higher prices. The government is now turning its attention to gas. It's scaling up investments in the sector, hoping to make a huge commercial success of the country's abundant gas reserves.
Nigeria is battling with the decrease of crude oil exploitation. Now, the South African Special Investigations Unit set up to look into the public spending of the coronavirus-related program has revealed overwhelming malpractices. More than 1,000 service providers are under investigations for alleged corruption, according to SIU report. Now, in this usual weekly message to nation, President Cyril Ramaphosa said he is dismayed with the amount of fraud committed at a time when the country is struggling to deal with the pandemic. More in this report.
An investigation by the Special Investigative Unit, or SIU, into public spending on coronavirus-related programs has found evidence of massive looting. The SIU looked into the procurement of personal protective equipment. It found evidence of serious maladministration. According to the SIU report, at least 1,774 service providers are under investigation for alleged looting.
Actions that we are taking. Firstly, to ensure that the allegations, when they are reported, they receive appropriate attention, investigations are conducted timely, effectively, and the outcomes are reached, as we were reporting now, and ensure that those outcomes are attended to. Consequence management is meted out, so that punishment is also meted out. This will have the effect of ensuring that there is deterrence and that those would be corrupt and those would be maladministrators. A clear message is sent.
According to Advocate Mutibi, many PPE suppliers used different companies as fronts to obtain multiple contracts from the health department, and prices were inflated. In some cases, the markup was as high as 400%. In his weekly letter to the nation, President Cyril Ramaphosa reflected on the SIU report. He said that while the country had grown accustomed to hearing stories about corruption, nothing could have prepared the nation for the lengths that some had gone to in order to steal. The president says what is most disturbing is the willful intent to commit fraud at a time when the country is scrambling to procure PPE to protect people. Some analysts believe that while President Ramaphosa has shown willingness to tackle corruption, the task will be quite difficult because they say corruption is deeply entrenched.
The corruption in South Africa is comprehensive, it is systemic, it is pervasive, and it affects every level of government, whether it's local government, provincial government, national government, state-owned companies. Greed is a moral problem that has been eating up the social fiber, the moral fiber of South African society for quite some time.
Given the level of corruption that we are facing as a country, and then the pandemic that we are trying to fight, you find that people in public offices are putting personal interest. That's corruption. Personal interest before public interest. So it's going to be very difficult for us to tackle this pandemic.
President Ramaphosa has assured South Africans that the net is closing in on those implicated in the corrupt activities. He says the state is now trying to recover the money, and some cases have already been referred for prosecution.
An investigative unit set up to look into COVID-19 matters in South Africa reveals corruption and malpractices. We'll now go with a short commercial break, and when we return, the news continues. Stay tuned.
Pride we take in our brand, the work we put in to constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. You're still watching the World News Bulletin, and now to the rest of our stories. The Gambia on Tuesday joined the world to celebrate the International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM. Under the theme United Front and Act to End Female Genital Mutilation. The day is set aside by United Nations to raise awareness against the harmful practices. Fatmata Kasim tells us more.
The Gambia government in 2015 banned the brutal practice of female genital mutilation in the country, following continuous pressure from local and international organizations. FGM comprises all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia and other injuries to the female genital organ for non-medical reasons. The West African nation is among countries where about 3/4 of girls have undergone female genital mutilation. Speaking at the commemoration ceremony, the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Touré, said a lot has been done to end this harmful tradition practice in the Gambia by NGOs, civil society organizations, and the government.
A lot has been done to end female genital mutilation and other harmful practices. Years of sustained advocacy by NGOs and CSOs in partnership with government and our development partners has yielded dividends. FGM and other harmful practices are prohibited by law. The government has passed laws and policies that promote and protect the rights of women and children in the Gambia.
The United Nations Children's Fund country rep Jonathan Lewis highlighted the significance of celebrating the International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM.
Our collective hope lies on the criminalization in 2016 of FGM, a decision that underscores the Gambia's commitment to its obligation under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, as well as the UN General Assembly resolution for the complete elimination of female genital mutilation and cutting, which the country approved back in 2012. And our resolve now is to ensure that this legislative framework is translated into visible, sustainable, and measurable changes in the protection of girls and women in the Gambia. Since we launched the joint program on eliminating female genital mutilation in 2018, UNFPA, as lead agency, and UNICEF have been working closely with the government of the Gambia and a wide array of partners to support national efforts to eliminate FGM.
Kunle Adeniyi of the United National Population Fund challenged the government and other stakeholders to work together in criminalizing FGM in the Gambia. He urges health workers to be vigilant in their work while collaborating with the judiciary and police to ensure that FGM practices are prosecuted.
We stand with communities here and around the Gambia working to prevent FGM. We call on girls and their families, teachers, health workers, social workers, religious leaders, government officials to act together to make a difference. Health workers must not encourage the medicalization of female genital mutilation. It's a crime, and it would always be a crime in the Gambia. It is time to make sure that policies work. Laws must work, policies must work. We must come together, link our health workers with the judiciary, with the police, and ensure that cases of female genital mutilation are prosecuted and justice is served. It is time to put an end to this harmful practice and to allow communities everywhere to meet their full potential by enabling women and girls to meet their own potentials.
Despite the Gambia being a party to many international and regional treaties that prohibit the practice of FGM and child marriage, these practices still remain as a concern in some communities. The Women's Amendment Act 2015 bans FGM and imposes stringent punishment for perpetrators. Section 32 of the Act imposes an imprisonment of 3 years and/or a fine of $50,000 for persons that engage in the practice, and life imprisonment where death has occurred as a result of the practice. For iAfrican News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Moving on to the matters of the TRRC, Babasah tells the Truth Commission that Jammeh rehired him to the Investigations Department because of his reliability and not for his expertise. He denies participation in castrating and electrocuting detainees at NIA. Omar Ahmad Toure files in this report.
Babasah, who has been adversely mentioned in torture, appears before the commission Tuesday and says former President Jammeh recalled him to NIA to investigate the 2006 attempted coup because of his stability in the investigations.
He knew your capacity to produce results in investigations. He knows we are very steady in our investigation. He would not know that. He's never seen you working. He knows the results you produce. I've worked with him before he became president. Yes, investigative work. And he knew your capacity to produce results. Remember, 1995, 1996, those are the most difficult periods. Everybody was there. You were there. And results were produced. I, for one, I don't see this as difficult. 1992 to the most difficult. 1992, you would not torture people willy-nilly, would you? 1992, you did torture us. Thank you very much. Finally. Hallelujah.
Baba says he does not recall beating or torturing anyone physically, even though he has been labeled as a torturer. Victims that appeared at the Truth Commission accused Baba of severe tortures, but he denies all the allegations, saying he wouldn't think of such a thing.
You would not say these ones because you are ashamed of them. I will. Would you be proud of crossing a big man's genitals? How would you be like? That's the last thing I ever think of. Exactly. You would not be proud of that. That's the last thing. Look, it's very inhuman. That is what you people did. That's what they said we did. Well, that's what they said. Your colleague said you did it, and the victim said you did it. This is what I'm saying. They said. But I'm saying no.
Babasah spent 13 years at NIA and says during this period he has arrested and detained only one person, but has never tortured or killed anyone. He says he was aware of tortures at NIA, but didn't raise it to anyone and couldn't resign from work for the fear of retribution against him and the family. For Africa TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention has been reminiscing on its successes as it marks 4 years since its formation in 2017. The creation of the Africa CDC came shortly after the continent was hit by the Ebola health crisis, prompted the EU leaders agreed to deal with future epidemics should be combated in coordinated manner. Now, since the emergence of this novel coronavirus in Africa, the continent's health organization has been leading the response process. Details in this report.
The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention was established on January 21, 2017. It aimed to strengthen the capacity and capability of Africa's public health institutions as well as partnerships.
I always characterize the creation and launch of Africa CDC as one of the greatest political innovation that was inspired by the vision and wisdom of our head of state.
2 years before the Africa CDC was created, West Africa experienced a devastating outbreak of Ebola. African Union member states agreed that future epidemics should be combated in a more coordinated manner.
At that time, Ebola had, the continent had just fought a very fierce battle against Ebola in West Africa. And I'm sure they knew that the future was going to be characterized by other pandemics. So they launched Africa CDC. We are really truly humbled. Those of us who were called on to be pioneers in setting up the Africa CDC.
Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention attributes its success in the last 4 years to its expert teams, member states and partners.
We are very proud of the team of experts that make up the staff of Africa CDC who are working around the clock in responding and preparing our countries to any health and disease outbreaks. We are also very grateful for the support that we have gotten from our member states and from our partners in ensuring that we as Africa CDC are meeting our mandate.
Africa CDC has been coordinating Africa's response against COVID-19 pandemic. And now, thanks to the Chinese government, the Africa CDC will soon have this state-of-the-art headquarters now under construction. Many say this new HQ will help the continental health organ better serve the people of Africa. Africa CDC has a lot it wants to achieve in the next few years. And for that, it's already equipping itself with technology and know-how from similar CDCs of China and the United States. Observers say Africa CDC's work in the past 4 years has given it the confidence to battle any pandemic.
Well, viewers, that was all on the World News Bulletin with me, Sohna Tunkara, today. You can stay tuned for more of our interesting programs. Until then, good evening.